Okay, let's begin. Hello everybody. Hope you're all doing well today. If you can't tell by the description of this live stream, I am fed up of working on this game. So, the primary objective today in this stream is to build all of the baseline functionality in a nice, stable, proper way for Square Off, so that we can finish the game and get it released at the start of next year, because I don't want to develop it anymore. It's getting a bit laborious, if I'm honest. So we're currently in a completely new project. I've moved some of the assets across. Most of what we're using is rebuilt from the most recent video on the channel, the tutorial that we just put out, which if you haven't seen already, you should definitely go check out if you're a developer. And if you want to get your hands on the source code, there's a link in the description where you'll be able to do that. But yeah, so we've got a few objectives. We want to split out all of our logic, so making sure that we don't have loads of bloated classes. Like the original player controller from the original project file was huge. It was getting out of control. Things like the game session manager, I want to get those all sorted out. Power-up handling needs cleaning up. Menu systems need cleaning up. I'm gonna strip everything back, simplify it all, make sure it all works. We're gonna ditch online multiplayer because that's just way too much effort. We are gonna ditch some of the game modes. We're only gonna have 3 game modes now, which will be the standard deathmatch, the King of the Hill game mode, and probably some kind of like gauntlet thing, like a cooperative gauntlet. We'll add in some basic AI controllers that just try and go towards the player, and you just got to kill as many as you can, and they'll slowly get harder and harder. And yeah, that'll be it. We'll put in 15 power-ups, I think. Get the menu sorted out, get the sound sorted out, but everything's just going to be properly scaled back is the plan. So we're starting off by recreating the first level with our destructible terrain. And we're going to have to what am I going to say? What am I trying to say? Yeah, we're going to have to recreate everything from the ground up. There's a couple of errors which I need to sort out, but we're going to get around to it. And yeah, hopefully it should be okay. So, in terms of things that we've copied over from the other project, we've got the destructible tile class is coming over. All of the original particle effects have come over, because we're going to reuse most of those, other than ones that need cleaning up. Things like the bomb explosion, and things like wall breaking and stuff like that. Those are going to need a bit of tweaking, but we've moved them across anyway. The hollow square and basic square sprites, also the spikes, moved all of those across. I need to make sure that they have got the correct import settings. Some of our UI, our buttons, and the UI arrow that we're using in the menu, fonts, brought those across. All of our rendering settings, because we want to be making sure we're using the 2D renderer in our render pipeline. Let's pop that in there. Good, everything still works. We aren't lighting anything because everything is unlit. I just want to make sure they're using sprites default. We need to sort that out. Want to make sure we are using oh, what's the material? I brought the material across. Where is it? Sprite material. Great. It's that simple. Want to make sure we are using that one, because that will give us proper colors, and it should be of type URP and unlit. No. What am I doing? URP 2D. What? There's no sprite unlit. Well, that just seems ridiculous. Alright, in which case, let's see if there's a default unlit sprite material. I guess it would just be sprites default. Screw it, we're going to leave it as sprites default. Even though that is not URP. Oh well. Okay, let's move this platform up a bit. So it's in a closer to position to where it was in the original. I'm going to take podiums 2 and 3 and just move them across to 11. No, I'm not. I'm going to go 10. 10 feels better. Platform up to 3. Cool. So, let's recreate our player. We need an empty. I'm going to call this our player. We are going to tag that up as player. Actually, this is going to be player entity, because the way we're going to do things now, the player is going to be split up into a bunch of different components. The first of which is the player controller. So we'll stick that one on there. And as per the video that I put out, the player controller is purely movement. Should only be movement, shouldn't be anything else. So that will exist on the environment layer. We are going to give it a box collider 2D and a rigid body 2D. Make sure it's got a reference to that rigid body. That player input reference is going to get passed through from elsewhere. For the time being, I am going to attach it directly to the entity. Yeah, for testing purposes, I will attach it straight here. We are using player actions, and we're going to create a empty for the graphics, which is then going to have our hollow square on the bottom, and we want you to be sprite unlit. Oh, it is there. That's just sprites default. Amazing. Okay, that's fine. He's got some interesting things going on the inside. Let's see if we can fix that up. Point filter. There we go. Do the same with the spikes, just so I don't forget. And let's also just color him up so he looks the part. I've made the foolish mistake of saving all of my swatches with the alpha set to 0. We're just going to comment this all out for the time being. And let's make sure our player entity is actually working. This is where I have to think to myself if I've actually set up the input to work with a keyboard and mouse. Probably be worth double checking that before we dive in. Let's have a look. Player input actions. Let's dock this over here. Yep, we do have WASD, and we do have space. We'll need to add in ones for attacking, as in using special moves, and also for pausing as well. That's going to be quite important. Let's see if it works. I need to set the gravity as well, actually. At the moment it's going to be far too low. We're going to have some really floaty jumping. Oh, we need to set values for the script as well. Come on, Unity. There we go. Yeah, so at the moment nothing's happening because I haven't set any of the values. Let's just pull up the old project real quick. Where's my project folder? Ah, there it is. First of all, let's check the physics. We need to do a couple of things. If I can bring this across. Come on. Nope. Oh, it's because of that. Okay, fine. We need to make sure autosync transforms is checked. And we need to set the gravity to -35.7. Yeah, that should be that. We want to make sure that entities don't collide with entities. So let's just create an entity layer. Entity. Pop that on there. Note this object only. Go back into our matrix. Uncheck entity with entity. Cool. And then the final thing is prefabs, player object. And we're going to just copy across. Come on, we're going to just copy across our values. Why are you doing that? Let's have a look. So we got a move speed of 14, jump height of 3, ground smooth time of 0.15, and aerial of 0.2. Perfect. So now we should get some stuff happening. Casper, hello. You got me in your coding loading zones. Nice. Sounds entertaining for sure. Okay, we don't have anything working. Still no movement. Let's... Where's my PlayStation controller? Lost my PlayStation controller, guys. Either way, we should be getting movement with the input action. Oh, I didn't actually assign it. Let's do that. There we go. Okay, we're back. We are back. Awesome. So, oop, and down we go. The next thing we need to do, first of all, frame rate. Why are you tanking so hard? It could be because of the massive entities that I've got in the scene right now. But it really is not happy. Let's try just disabling some things real quick. That made no difference. I'm going to assume it's down to having things running in the background, things like the stream and everything running in the background, and being low on space. So we need to get the double jump and triple jump functionality back in, as well as the player ammo counter, which I want to double check how I actually handled that. Yeah, so the ammo counter is a separate object to the player. There we go. And it's got its own script. Yeah, cool. Tell you what, let's just copy that across, I think, because it shouldn't need too much refactoring. Recreate our miscellaneous folder, copy across the script, and then we'll also copy across the ammo counter prefab. Give it a second to just do what it's doing. What am I going to call this folder? In-game prefabs. And then I'll have one called player prefabs. And we'll stick those under there, and we'll do the same with the player entity as well. Oh dear, what we got? Oh, there's 6 slots, okay. These are all going to be the basic square. Oh, that's going to need some animations as well, isn't it? Yeah, I didn't think about that. We will add in our things. Gonna make sure we got the alpha of these turned up as well, so I know which one's which. Give them all the default color. And actually, I should be able to just lock the inspector. And drag and drop these in. Or at least I would have been able to do that if they were in the right order. Haha. So we need to do you first. You are this one. Actually no, we're working from the bottom, aren't we? So ammo 2. Then ammo 1. 5. 3 and 4. Cool. Let's remove that from there and add in. Ah, we already added it in. Good. So I am, for the sake of keeping it happy, I'm going to copy across the animations. I'm just going to copy across the entire folder, I think. No, I won't. Just one for the ammo counter. Cool, so let's pop open the ammo counter script so that I can actually figure out how it works. Where we're getting ammo count from? We're getting from set ammo count, so that must be getting passed in from the original player controller. So we're going to move this over into a player entity data class. So here's where we pop open our old script. Howdy Alan, how you doing, my friend? We're rebuilding everything from scratch today. Because the code base is an absolute mess. Am I looking in the right place? I'm not looking in the right place. Here we go. Yeah, player ammo counter. So let's get this in here. References. And we will have a serialized field, private, ammo counter. Ammo counter. Don't need access to a bulletproof fab. We probably need access to a weapon, because that'll be the thing you use. Oh, you're having fun with Android Studio UI, nice. I haven't looked at my thing since we gave our demos, and yeah, I don't want to. For some background there, university coursework at the moment, we've got to make mobile apps, and we have to use Android Studio, and it's not very fun. Right, so we've got our ammo counter reference. That's something we definitely need for the player data. I think that might be the only reference that we need, actually. Oh no, yeah, that's the only reference we need. Okay, so the actual player data stuff we need. I don't think we need any of what's under here, because that will all be in the player session data rather than the player data. We need things like round 1. Oh no, this is the player entity data. So this, what does this need? This needs things like what weapon we're using. So we're going to have a public weapon, current weapon. Which we're going to leave commented out for now. Actually, that's going to be a reference. Is that going to be it? Nah, that can't be it. Where's our knockback percentage? There we go. So player data, we need private bool is knocked back, which is going to be false by default. And we need a private float knockback percentage. Don't need to initialize that because it's default 0, and a private float time to recovery. I suppose we probably need a reference to our player controller because we'll need to alter the velocity. So we will have a public player controller, my controller. Cool. Trying to get the UI out of the way so you can enjoy the nice juicy backend things. Yeah, that's understandable. I think the UI is probably the most annoying bit, or the most difficult bit anyway, which is frustrating because usually the backend is the difficult bit and the UI is fun, but I suppose in this case not much of it will be that much fun, and the backend will be copy paste stuff from lectures, and the front end will just be a nightmare. Okay, so here's where we start getting some crossover. Is that being knocked back is technically something that needs to happen on the player controller because of the smoothing and the movement. So I guess what we do, we take this is knocked back, and we move it over here, and then what we can say is when the entity gets hit, we'll call that call a knockback method on the player controller. So we'll have a public void knockback, which will take in float for knockback percentage. Cool. And that will do the actual knockback stuff, which I think we had a method for, or it was taking place in the take damage. Yeah. Start coroutine, freeze frame. Yep, that's fine. So yeah, we're going to do this rigid body, add force, add torque. Like so. I suppose we do need that vector as well. Vector 2 knock back vector. Cool. Great, okay. And then the actual doing the damage, calculating extra knockback is going to take place in here. Yeah, that should be fine. So in here is where we're going to inherit from our eye damageable. Which I guess I spell like that. We're going to create that over in Unity. In fact, no, we're not. We're going to just grab our interfaces from the original project and move them over. And then we want to make sure we damageable. There we go. Implement that interface, take damage, and then this will do our damage calculations here. Knock back the player entity. Now the thing is, I want to have two different types of play style. I want to have the Smash style, sort of going by stocks, and I also want to have a health-based one. So we'll probably want to create this as an abstract parent, and then we can have a stock entity data and a health entity data, and this damageable method can be implemented differently. Yeah, because the knockback percentage is effectively the equivalent of the health. Maybe not. I'll have to think about that one. I'm not sure now. So let's sort out our damage calculations. We are going to get that knockback vector. Like so. That's going to be my controller dot is grounded. Like that, and it's going to complain because that's not the naming convention. It should be a capital I, but I don't care. We want to be able to access it, and then we are going to do the knockback percentage increase like so. That's going to be our damage divided by 100, because it comes in as a percentage. And then if knockback percentage, yeah, we're not going to worry about that. We are just going to go in and, yeah. For the time being, we're just going to go in and do my controller dot knockback. We'll pass in our knockback percentage and our knockback vector. Cool. That's cool. All right, let's make the weapon. create a folder called weapons. We will create a scriptable object called weapon data, and we will create the actual class, which is weapon, for what the player is holding. Let's pop both of those open. So weapon data SO is a scriptable object. This is going to hold our simple stuff like the fire rate, public float, where is it? Yeah, max ammo count. Max ammo count. And then private, no, that is going to be... yeah, no. We'll leave that separate, but we need to have that max ammo count. We're going to need the recoil. Whoops, can't spell. Public float recoil. I guess probably we'd want something like a sound effect in there, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We'll sort sound effects later. I think that's probably it. As far as the data goes, oh yes, public game object bullet prefab, because some weapons might shoot differently. And let's also do a public float bullet fire count. And we'll say as well, we'll have this limited because it might get a bit OP if we go crazy. What am I doing? Range 1, 3. That's fine. So we can have things like a burst gun, and we'll also have a public float fire angle, which the angle between bullets. I think that's fine. So then our weapon, we need public weapon data SO, weapon data. And then this is going to be the thing that has methods like fire. And I think actually I'm going to move the ammo counter to be part of the weapon, because that just makes sense in my head. I think that makes sense. So we can actually have the ammo counter be with the weapon. Yeah, that's cool. It's going to be our references, and we will have a reference to, again, the player controller. Standardized controller. We'll make that public as well. We need a public void fire. and that simply is going to do the bullet instantiation and decrease the ammo count. Nice. So yeah, that's what we need. Header, internal data, or instance data. We'll have a private float current ammo. So I probably want a public void in it, which is going to take in a weapon data SO weapon data. And in this we're going to say this dot weapon data equals weapon data ammo current ammo equals weapon data dot max ammo, and our ammo counter set ammo count current ammo. This needs to be an int. Whoops. And you know what? I don't even think this is necessary as being like that. We can just have it as like a start method, because we'll do it on instantiation, and we'll just do an if to check that weapon data is not equal to null, because obviously we can't initialize if it's null. Cool. And a weapon is something that will be created as a child of the player entity. So our entity, we also want to have a public void change weapon, which I guess we'll take in a weapon called weapon. And quite simply, that will just update the current weapon. There we go. Nice. Let's add in another section for input handling methods. Yes, is that what I want to do? I think so. I'm going to end up with some coupling, but that's fine. These things have to be coupled. So like a player always needs a controller and the entity and session data. Possibly not the session data, but we'll come back to that one. We definitely need the entity information though. So let's grab our attack method. Am I massively over-engineering this? player controller shouldn't be taking damage, but the player controller should be handling input, which makes me think this attack should be in the player controller method, and that we then tell the entity data to fire the weapon. Nah, screw it. We will leave it like this. That can probably be turned into a method. We'll do that in a minute. Cool, and then this can take in a vector2, fire direction. And we also need to do our knockback or our recoil in this method as well. So let's have a look at the fire or the shoot methods. Wherever I've put it. Shoot, there we go. So we want to do fire direction equals fire direction dot normalized. That's cool. This is the one that we want to take. In our entity data, we want to recall first. We're going to do my controller dot rigid body dot add force, my controller dot input vector. Of course, that's going to be the negative of that. Dot normalized. Tell you what, we'll pass it through normalized as well. No, we won't. Multiplied by current weapon dot get recoil. So let's make that methods. And we will simply return weapon data. Come on. Weapon data dot recoil. Cool. I don't think there's anything else we need to do on the player. We'll create the bullets and everything in here. Yeah, that's fine. Let's do bullets. That's going to be player entity data. Player data. So we're going to do with bullets a similar thing to what we've done with weapons. We are going to have a bullet script, and we are also going to have a bullet data scriptable object. So we'll pop that one open first. Going to be a scriptable object, and this is going to contain things like move speed and things like that. First things first, let's actually have a look in the original project. At the bullet script. Yeah, here we go. Open with Sublime Text. So we want to have, let's just copy paste actually, bullet stats. We'll maintain these default values as well. Impact particles. I think we can carry across the sound effects as well as a piece of data that we hold in the data scriptable object. Yeah, I think that's going to be everything. And then we will create, we'll flesh out the bullet script. So this is going to have everything else. Our references. We also now need a reference to a public bullet data SO bullet data. And we need our internal data, that fire direction. Nab this init method. And we'll nab these methods as well. This is now going to be our bullet data. Dot move speed. This is going to be player entity data. This is actually going to be player session data, not player entity data, player session data. Our impact particle is going to be okay, let's leave it as entity data for now, and then maybe we have a reference to the session data in the entity data. Or maybe we just do a get component. My brain is drawing a blank. I want the bullet data. That's it. Impact particle, damage percentage. And this, yeah, this is going to have to come from the session data somewhere. We aren't actually going to do sound like that, so I'm going to remove that from there. Just put in a comment, play sound. We're going to make use of scriptable objects a lot for the sake of modularity and decoupled code. Let's sort out our session data. So the player session data is going to need things like the player color. I don't know if this even needs to be a mono behavior. I'll leave it as one for now. But this is going to have references to things like that. And probably also player input. No, doesn't need player input. What we do need though is things like rounds 1. Which I need to figure out where that's coming from. Let's check the scoreboard. So one round count in player session data. That doesn't feel right. That is right, it's session player data. So let's see if we can find that. Scripts. Core systems. Player management. Nope. Character control systems. Nope. Where would I have put this script? Unless I made it as like a subclass of... Yeah, here we go. So we need these kind of things. Yeah, see, here we go. We've got reference to our player input. Also a boolean for if it's dead. I don't think that should be in there. That's for the entity to worry about. But I have indeed not made it a mono behavior, so let's not make it a mono behavior for now, and we'll see what happens. It could go terribly wrong. But effectively we'll have an array of these in our game session in the same way that we do here. Player input. Player input. And a public int 1 round count, which we will continue to do as get private set. Whoops, I keep hitting the wrong key. Take that like that. 1 round count equals 0. This dot player input, okay, player color first, fine, and this dot player input equals player input. Let's make that spelling the same. Get controller, that should be a capital G. Get controller index. That's my Java shining through, that is. Don't actually need that controller index reference. Okay, that's our session data. Don't need to use any of this extra stuff. Oh, maybe we do. I think we can get rid of systems.collections and systems.collections.generic, yeah. Awesome stuff. Okay, I have to remember where I was now. Why were we doing that? We want a reference to our player session data in our entity data. Oops. So that way we can get access to colors and things. Cool. So we hit the entity can take damage, and we can set the correct colors for things. Nice. Okay, what I want to do next is the game loop class, and that will probably be the last one that I do. We'll do the parent class, the parent game session, and then we'll create an instance of that's fine, yeah, we'll create an instance of it, or an implementation of it, sorry, that is the Deathmatch. So Deathmatch session manager. And the basic idea is that we will brain. This is an abstract class. Abstract. Almost really like abracadabra or something then. And we are going to have a public abstract void start session, which will take an array of player session data called player data, and an integer for number of rounds. For the time being, that's fine. Your abstract. Although it probably doesn't need to be abstract, actually. Yeah, probably doesn't need to be abstract. Or maybe it does. I'll decide in a minute. What definitely does need to be abstract is the private void game loop, which isn't a void, it's an IEnumerator. You are going to be a private abstract IEnumerator. Protected abstract IEnumerator game loop. There we go. So we can actually access it in our inheritance. Oh no, my phone is dead. Can't see what's going on. Let's make sure I don't unplug my mouse. That would be detrimental. We will instead just plug in my phone. We also need an IEnumerator for starting a round. In fact, I'm not even sure game loop needs to be abstract. That can just be as is. And we can... I'm actually going to change this to round loop. So we'll start round, play round, end round. Not going to play sound effects. If is one, we'll do things. Otherwise, start a new round. Cool. So yeah, the ones that need to be interesting are going to be the play round and the end round. Because for things like King of the Hill, it will probably be time-based rather than anything else. And we'll still have players die, but they'll be able to respawn as well. I think will probably make sense. And we'll also have that we won't have acknowledge player death as a thing, because that is specific to the deathmatch. Yeah, that's specific to the deathmatch. So actually, mostly that's our skeleton class complete. We just need the things like session data, so rounds to win and things like that. Let's have a look and see what we want to have in here. For the time being, we will definitely have a public, doesn't need to be public, a private player session data array, which is going to be our player data. You know what, this is not going to be abstract. We are going to do some stuff by default. We will have a private int number of rounds, which we'll do that. We'll do 5 as the default still. Yeah. Have a public game object, player controller prefab. And yeah, I guess we have our public int player count as well, so we can keep track of how many players we need to spawn, I guess. Is that what I'm using that for? Let's just have a quick double check for where I'm using this. I really hate... Seriously? There we go. It's not even being used. Great. Can get rid of that. Nope. I'm back. Got Skeffles rocked up. G'day Skeffles, if you're still here, we are currently working on Square Off. I want to get this game finished because I'm fed up of working on it. And so I'm just rebuilding all of the base code, making sure it all works, that it's all nicely decoupled, and yeah, just trying to get it to a state where I could actually put it out on Steam properly so that I can move on to bigger and better things without just ditching it in the dirt. And I need a public bool. Game is 1. Yes, that does need to be false. I want to make sure of that. Question is, do we need this in round boolean? I think we probably do. Where are we using that? I think I'm probably using it for things like making sure player input works and stuff. Cheers, dude. Have a good evening. Yeah, I think the round boolean, in round boolean, is used for just making sure players can and can't move at the right times. Yeah, I don't think we need that, or I don't think we should be keeping track of that. It feels like a bit of a waste of time, or a bit unnecessary. Cool, so that's actually our basic class created. So then the Deathmatch session manager yeah, it's put the things backwards. That's annoying. Whoops. Let's get rid of that one from there, paste it in the bottom. There we go. that's going to have our logic that we've got in here in it basically. So we will, when we start the round, load a scene for playing the games. So we're actually going to have a list of maps that we can play on, but we're not going to worry about that for now. So this is going to do our, this is actually going to do our scene loading and load the scene that we want. We are then going to spawn our players. I think probably that should be a base method. Yeah, let's make these virtual just so we can override them if we need to. That's fine. So yeah, spawn players. What we're doing next? Music. Get a reference to the scene loader, game camera, scoreboard, set the background color, blah blah blah. Set in round to true. Great. I want to strip out a lot of this logic to somewhere else, like things like having a reference to the scene loader. I guess that does need to be a thing. Maybe the scene loader should just be a singleton, or we use the scriptable object event bus approach. I think probably singletons is going to be the way I go for that one. Just because if I'm thinking about testing functionality, if I need to load a scene, I need to have the scene loader in the scene anyway. So may as well keep that as is and have it as a singleton. But things like the game manager will have that as an independent object and use a scriptable object approach. So yes, this is good. We need our acknowledge players thing. This is our player session player data. What did I call it? I did call it player data. It's because I've made it private instead of protected. Everything here needs to be protected. Player data, and then we will have we'll use the same header, game session data. Actually no, we won't. We'll use a different one. This is going to be round data. Then we can do this one. One remaining players is greater than one. We will yield return null. Then in end round, we want to make sure we freeze all the players. just in case anyone decides to do something stupid and die. In which case we don't want anybody to win. So we'll wait for 1 second. And then for each player session data, player data, data in player data, if that's where the isDead comes in. We'll come back to that one. We'll come back to that one. Data.one round count is greater than or equal to rounds to win. Round count. Number of rounds. No, that should be different. That will be different depending on we'll leave it as number of rounds. The reason I'm umming and ahhing about that is because in the case of a deathmatch, you could end up playing however many players there are multiplied by the number of rounds that you need to win. So if you need to win 5 rounds and you got 4 players, every player could win 4 times, and then 1 player wins and that ends the game. So that's a total of like 21 rounds rather than 5. Whereas in King of the Hill or Gauntlet, for example, it's going to be a set number. It will just be that number of rounds. So in the case of the deathmatch, it makes sense for that to be called rounds to win rather than number of rounds. So I don't really like the naming of that, but I'll come back to it because I don't have a thought of how to approach it right now. So game is 1 equal to true. That's not how you spell true. And I guess we want to be keeping track of that winning player. So let's just have a public int. We'll have that equal to -1 by default so that we don't get any weird confusion. Data.player inputs .player index. If the game is not won, it fades out the music, so we can ignore that. Show the leaderboard, scoreboard even. And then we will wait for 3 seconds, yeah. And then just do the exact same thing that we've got here. player data 0, player 1, dot player input, dot actions, we're going to use confirm this time because we're going to switch it to UI. Cool. I'll tell you what, actually, yeah, let's do our change of who's of what. What am I looking for? Wait a minute. Oh yeah, I don't have set dead as a thing. Just comment that out for now. Yeah, I want to, in here, I want to say data dot player input dot input what is it? Is it scheme? It is map. Switch current action map. There we go. UI. So then on start round, we want to make sure we do the opposite. Just going to rename that action map to in-game so it lines up. Cool. Okay, so that's the foundations of game loops done. There's some stuff that needs to be done in the scoreboard to get it to work. But we've been going for an hour and a half and I am happy to end things there. I've reconstructed a fair bit of the back end logic, and we've got a better grounding for how to move forwards with actually making sure everything works properly and that the code doesn't get bloated. So with that, I'm going to thank everybody very much for watching. If you're interested in getting a hold of the source code for the game, there is a link in the description where you can join our Patreon page. It's only £1 and you will get access to the source code from the last tutorial as well as these live streams after they've happened. If you would like to try out the game before it's released on Steam at the start of next year, there is a link in the description to get a hold of the demo. And as always, I encourage you greatly to make your way over to the Discord server, where we can have conversations about games that you're working on, games that I'm working on, and all things game development. Nice. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I will see you next time.